That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Him, the sophomore film directed by Justin Tipping, which Universal is releasing theatrically September 19th, 2025.
Do you know Mr. Tipping's first film?
Yeah, it was called Kicks back in 2016, I believe, starring Christopher Jordan Wallace. You know who that is.
Who's that?
Son of Biggie and Faith Evans.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and
Okay.
that was an indie film. I think I reviewed the Blu-ray of that way back then. And I remember kind of liking that. I've been excited for this film for quite some time because, of course, it's produced by Mr. Jordan Peele and has had an interesting couple of trailers that I've enjoyed.
Well, my ignorant ass thought it was directed by Jordan Peele, so I was extra excited.
Mhm.
What is Him about? A young athlete descends into a world of terror when he's invited to train with a legendary champion whose charisma curdles into something darker. What is your pull quote?
This Faustian football parable falters well before the finish line, its hysterical, excessive visuals attempting to create a splendor lacking in its tepid themes, boring metaphors, and bland characterizations.
Dang. Mine. I see him wanting to be smart, sinister, and sexy, but it plays more like a messy mixtape of half-formed ideas.
You know what? It doesn't matter if you dislike him or capital H-I-M.
Okay, Stephanie. Um, yeah, I when the screening ended, it was I went to a press screening, so I saw this a couple of days ago. You just walked out of the theater. The
Yeah.
screening I attended was almost full. The one you attended was empty.
I'm in New Orleans. I was the only person at the 5 o'clock screening of this film where I am.
So at the press screening, when the film ended, like half the people just smooth got up and walked out. It was like crickets. And then the rest of us sat there because I assumed there'd be a post-credit scene, but there wasn't one. But yeah, I my main thought as I was walking to my car was this felt messy and weird. And I like weird, but in this instance, it just wasn't. Yeah, it's let me ask you, what did you like about him?
I Not much. Strangely, I think I'm so disappointed because the comparison I'm going to make is better than she is, but maybe how Julia Fox was styled because she was giving me Kim Basinger and Never Say Never Again when she was the Bond girl. Except Kim Basinger's white gold and Julia Fox is certainly not at that level. But I think I was most intrigued at her. And then maybe it's some of the visuals. I was thinking this feels like a film made for sports fans who also dig David Lynch, like maybe a very small segment of people.
That's fair. I I found Tyreek Withers very appealing. I also agree that I think Julia Fox might have been my favorite part, which is crazy because her last movie, which is on Netflix, and now the
Mhm.
name of it escaped me, like Almost Home or something like that.
No, isn't it Night Always Comes
Night Always Comes.
with Vanessa Kirby?
She impressed me in that one, but she's suited for these kind of roles. I mean, the last one she played a prostitute, and this one she's playing like a demon gold digger. So she worked very well. I liked her in this. Some of the visuals I thought were quite creative. Like we'll get back to them, but there are several scenes where it looks like we're seeing the people like X-ray vision.
Yeah, I also think that it's used, it's used more than once, and I don't know if I felt the same about it after the first
Right.
time that it appears, but
I
sure.
think Marlon Wayans seems like he's having fun in the role. I think he could have gone way further with it.
I agree. This falls about as hard as that film Opus.
I'm glad you mentioned that because that's my comparison with
Like,
Malkovich.
yeah, John Malkovich, very much like Marlon Wayans in this film, seems to be having a lot of fun, but seems kind of miscast and is trying way too hard. Like I don't believe a minute of anything in this, so I have no emotional investment, which means there's no tension. There's definitely no terror, despite its Saltburn font that it's trying to inject upon us for no.
Well, that's the other thing. I was reading some people's Letterboxd comments and some of the Rotten Tomatoes pull quotes and people saying this isn't horror, but I've heard like on the press tour, they're saying it's a psychological thriller. But even as a psychological thriller, I think it still doesn't work. So Tyreek Withers plays this college football player who is certainly going to be drafted into the NFL. And I don't know football really at all. So these acronyms and whatnot, and I don't know if the league that they're talking about is a real league, but whatever. It's football. He's young. Marlon Wayans plays like, I don't know a popular quarterback's name, but oh, it's like Tom Brady. He's like a Tom Brady. And it's clear from like within the first 10 minutes that someone has sold their soul to the devil.
Yes.
And so
It,
the bulk of the film is this week that Tyreek Withers spends with Marlon Wayans. And it's all building up to, is he going to take his spot
mhm.
and ultimately sell his soul for it? And we'll spoil it in a second. But the inciting incident is that in the beginning of the film, Tyreek's character is on the football field, sort of like decompressing and practicing. Because I think we've heard the term combine in another film about football players, where it's like a big event that maybe is before a draft. I don't know. But anyway, right before the combine,
Mhm.
Tyreek's character is assaulted by like a demon,
Base, essentially, yes.
right? And
Uh-huh.
then is told that due to your traumatic brain injury, you really need to not play football. Like the doctor is saying, I cannot recommend you do that because if you have another head injury, you could really be messed up. But of course, his mom is like, he'll be fine. And he's saying he'll be fine because he wants to be pro.
He gets a
Oh,
call from his agent, Tim Heidecker, who I cannot take seriously for one single millisecond.
well, that too. But because Tyreek's character didn't participate in the combine, it's made to seem like he's thrown away his chances. But then his agent calls him and says, hey, Marlon says you can train with him for a week and he'll get you ready to go meet the owners because you could still get drafted. I don't know. I think it was a mistake for us to understand right away that like this is probably someone selling their soul to the devil. I was fully expecting that not to be the twist. I was expecting something more inventive, but
Well,
it is actually what you think it would be.
this is like Faust on Faust because they're doing some Lance Armstrong shit as well.
Oh God. Okay. So I was getting to the bulk of the film is basically broken up into 6 days, like the days that he's at Marlon's compound in the desert, like this underground compound. And I thought the names of the different days, because they named the days, starting from day 1 to day 6, they're called fun, poise, leadership, resilience, vision, and sacrifice. And I just felt like we didn't need that. Like this, we didn't need all that. This shit is so messy and crazy. I don't know. We meet little Tyreek. So he's like, I don't know how old you think he was, like 6 or 7. I will say the funniest line in the movie is at one point, Marlon refers to Tyreek's character as a African American. And I had never heard that before. And I thought that was so funny.
That actually was the best line in the movie, yeah. And I think Tyreek Withers is fine. I mean, my previous comparison for him is that terrible I Know What You Did Last Summer reboot, which I think that film didn't do anybody any favors. So certainly he comes across better in this, but I think that the writing of this character, there's essentially nothing wrong with his performance, but he's backed into a corner from the first frame, and I don't get any kind of life from this person.
Interesting. I didn't feel as cold towards him. Um, but I agree that I don't fully, I feel like there was so much that could have been flushed out because we meet him as a little African American and we see that his dad is super into football. And we see them watching a game. We also need to talk about how old Marlon's character is supposed to be, but we see them playing a game like there's a football game and Marlon is the quarterback and he gets badly injured. Like his leg is basically ripped off of him
Uh-huh.
and then makes a full recovery and then we see that he has like 8 championship rings. So that's like the opening scene. So I immediately thought, oh, this man sold his soul to the devil. to be able to accomplish all this. But I thought it was funny that we see posters of like younger Marlon Wayans who looks like current Marlon Wayans, which is extra funny because we all know what younger Marlon Wayans looks like, which is nothing like the younger Marlon Wayans in this movie. So it was
And,
confusing to me, like how much time am I supposed to think? Like how old is he supposed to be?
oh, I mean, at least 12 to 15 years have passed since the since the opening of the film.
So then he would be a man in his like mid to late 30s.
I mean, Marlon still looks pretty good. It's not as jarring as, say, the Denzel photographs in Highest to Lowest. For
Marlon looks, I would say Marlon looks the best he's ever looked. He looks very good. So that's not my point. I feel like this is part of the problem with the film. There are a lot of detail. I was expecting to learn that the reason they have to find a successor is kind of like how Dracula has to change lives because people are going to start to suspect, like, why has this person been
or
around
death
and he still looks the same. But then that's never explained.
or death becomes her.
Right.
The devil's in the details, and the devil's not in the details in this film. And even in the first, what, 20 minutes, I feel like it's like we got a version of the film, like the script that was filmed, coffee spilled over half of it, and we're only getting half the story because the jumps I think are so jarring. It like at the point where we realized that he didn't make it to the combine, it's like it it just it's jumping so fast to get where it's going, but there's no finesse to it.
I agree. There are a couple of aspects to the story that I found really interesting. One of them was that we see, I don't even remember Marlon Wayans' character's name, but he
Uh,
has,
Z well, he says call him Zay, but Isaiah White.
that's right, Isaiah White. Isaiah White is like a super megastar athlete, and he has fanatics who stay in front of his house. The main one is this lady who I wrote down was Blonde Gladys from Weapons. That's what she reminded me of. But his fans are like a cult. And when we go to his home, we see that he even has like a portrait of his fans. I was expecting, while his fans, specifically Blonde Gladys, does reappear and has an integral scene, I was expecting a lot more with the fans, and I think maybe because I'm ignorant when it comes to collegiate football and professional football, some of it might have been lost on me, but I was expecting us to see more of how these superstar athletes affect and influence the fans. But we really don't get that. It's just like this kid wants to play pro football and he wants to be like his idol, Isaiah White, and so he's going to tolerate all the shenanigans to get there.
Mhm.
It just felt kind of thin to me.
It feels thin on every front because at certain points I was like, oh, is this going to be delving into subtext about masculinity in this specific realm? And
Oh, we're going to get to that in a second. Yes, I also felt like that was coming and it didn't. But another interesting story point is we get a scene where Marlon's character talks about the history of quarterbacks
Mhm.
and the Native Americans and how that like the gameplay, including quarterbacks, came to be. I found that very interesting, and I was even expecting that maybe we were going to find out that like some spirit of like a dead indigenous person was trying to get back to the white team owners or something a little more
It,
subversive or interesting, and it never happened.
it's Minot, remember?
Yeah. Okay, so when I think it's Tyreek's second day, he has to get a physical. And there are a bunch of people there, including this one sports medicine doctor who makes an appearance later. But immediately they tell him, well, even from the opening scene when we meet Marlon and
Hmm.
he's interacting with Tyreek, I was getting like homo vibes a little bit. And he even mentions like, while you're here, you can't do this, that, don't get on this, don't get on Grinder. And the way Marlon is looking at him, it was kind of devilish. So I think that made sense. And then the next day during the physical, Marlon tells him get naked.
Hmm.
And so he gets naked. We see his butt. And then he does his full physical nude. And then when the physical's done, the doctor's like, I don't know why you took your underwear off because this has been really uncomfortable for me. And then it's like an awkward moment for Tyreek's character. But, and then Marlon says a couple things like, what, like, are you shy? Do you have a small penis? And I don't know. I feel like it could have gone so much further because
Mhm.
I was expecting it to be much more debaucherous, sinister, and yeah, it just never gets there.
Yeah, I agree. It's leading us to believe that it's going to do something and then never does anything. But yes, because I think anybody that's ever, well, been in gym class, there's a lot of innuendo that happens in homosocial spaces, but always to a point where it kind of it's always on display in front of others, i.e., witnesses, and then stops at a certain point. But
Well,
uh,
speaking of that, Marlon even says he misses the locker room and the smell of the locker room, and Tyreek's like, "Oh, gross, no."
Yeah, that's all leading to a certain kind of coding, but again, that really doesn't go anywhere. And then the challenge of did you sleep with my what's her name? Elsie, Julie
Oh,
Fox's
was
character.
that her name, Elsie?
I believe so. Yeah,
Oh,
that's and like challenging him that did you sleep with my wife? Because again, everything is so flat because he goes off Tyreek's character, who is this very alliterative name, which reminded me of Bowfinger, Cameron Kincaid or Cameron Cade.
Cameron
And
Cade, yeah.
yeah, he goes off with Elsie and one of her girlfriends, and then wakes up to Marlon Wayans with a gun, like accusing him of, did you sleep with her? And it's like, okay.
Well, let's talk about Julia Fox. When we first meet her, she's, clearly like the wife of a successful athlete and maybe an influencer. We see her trying to sell like one of those Gwyneth Paltrow jade vagina eggs. And then she meets Tyreek and is being very pleasant towards him. And then she gifts him the jade like anal stone and tells him like you put it in your anus. And it's like, okay. I I feel like there is like some innuendo and I don't understand the point of it. Like it
The
doesn't go anywhere. What is the point of it?
the tip of that thing did not look like it should be going in that
No, it
orifice.
looked like it would hurt you.
Yeah, no.
Okay, the first scene I think where we see sort of like terror is there's a training sequence where Marlon brings in these random guys, and Tyreek is like, "Who are these people?" "Oh, they're just some like free agents who are coming to practice." Okay. And then Marlon says, "I need a volunteer." So the one white guy is like, "Please, I want to do it." Okay. So they have this guy standing in front of the like automated machine that throws the footballs, and Tyreek's character is supposed to like pass the ball. And
Hmm.
if he doesn't do a good throw, then that volunteer man gets hit in the face with a football doing like 200 miles an hour. So, of course, that scene is a little gruesome. I feel like that could have gone further because the guy, I mean, he gets a tooth knocked out and his a black eye and his nose broken, but he's not dead. He gets hit with the football like 5 or 6 times. We see it. And then, if it hadn't already been clear, then it's because I also feel like this film is playing with like fanatics.
Hmm.
It's just too many things happening. Like what is this movie about? I guess is my ultimate question. What do you think this movie is about?
Well, it starts out, well, I think it's about obsession and I think the loss of reality and perspective, even getting into the radical detachment is another terminology. But even from the get-go with his Cameron's father saying no guts, no glory, and that keeps getting repeated. And you have to be so obsessed that you're willing to do anything to make it. But I guess to what end?
I like the obsession angle. I just don't think this does enough to take us there. And then of course, like, what are you willing to do to achieve your goals? I feel like that's the most obvious thing that this story is pointing to.
Well, it goes beyond selling your soul because you can that seems like the step one, and then you have to do all this other shit. Like,
Right, right. And I guess I never understood because Tyreek's character feels like an unwilling participant. Like he's just a fan of this person and he wants to be like him. So of course he's agreeing to go visit. But then the sequence of events that ultimately gets him to the point where he has to make a decision if he's willing to literally sign a contract, which is never explicitly stated like you're signing your soul to the devil, but I'm assuming that's what we're supposed to think. The build up to that to me felt very, mm, I mean, again, Opus was the reference I had because in addition to John Malkovich playing this sort of eccentric character, I also felt like in that movie, his cult, which is what it's about, I never fully understood like the workings of that and what that means to the people. But
Yeah, it's I feel like some integral elements are undefined, especially, to the point where really extreme things happen, at least with the character of Cameron, who's kind of an innocent. I don't find any of his reactions to be believable, such as the one traumatic scene where the man's face gets beaten in with footballs, or the murder of Marjorie, and then the very next day they're out target practicing with also a live human in front of them. And he's just like, oh, I'm thinking about that woman that I assisted in the murder of yesterday. Like,
okay,
oh,
let's talk about that. So Marjorie is the one who I referred to as Blonde Gladys. So there's a scene where Tyreek and Marlon are in his sauna. And side note, like four different occasions, Marlon's character excuses himself from the scene and says, "Oh, I have to go watch some tape." So
mhm,
after the second time, I was assuming that watch some tape was going to mean something very different.
mhm,
But then we finally do see him watching some tape, and all it is him in like some room in a chair looking up at a screen on the ceiling, and he's basically watching the fans get excited over him.
mhm.
I thought that was a big letdown. To bring it up four times and then it's literally just him watching like YouTube video of the fans going crazy over him.
Well, even in the sauna scene where Marjorie somehow like, wearing all those clothes crawls out from under one of the benches in the sauna and is going to, bash Tyreek's head in. And then we right before that we get a shot of the temperature going up in the sauna. Like, but for what? For what?
Right, right. I mean, the only creepy part of that was when you see her hand come out from underneath and you're like, oh my goodness, someone's in there. And then Tyreek beats her up. Marlon ends up killing her, but I don't. So this is my question. I don't know that I thought he killed her because he just like throws her and she hits her head.
It seemed like he stabbed her, but we see it off screen. I don't.
Right. But then the next day you mentioned that they go out into the desert and they're shooting, like target practicing to relieve some pressure. And we see that they're like shooting a human in a mask. So I assume that human was Marjorie, but if it's not, and I don't understand why it's ambiguous whether or not Marjorie's dead. Who is the person they were shooting at? Is it just supposed to be that he's so evil that he will just shoot live people for target practice? That felt very out of place to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think all of it, like it feels like a bunch of ideas jammed together, but it doesn't really coalesce in any kind of interesting way, especially by the time we get to the ending, which is like, okay.
There are some biblical references. I think, I mean, I know as much about the Bible as I do football, but I did recognize that there is a recreation of the Last Supper, which is sort of blended with, the horror elements to me are not really there. And the psychological thriller elements, I mean, this isn't smart enough to be slick. And I think the main psychological component is that Tyreek's character keeps having these visions, which are
Uh-huh.
getting annoying because then it's like, oh, it's not real what he's seeing. Okay.
The nightmare of champions equals passing the torch.
We're getting towards the end of his time, and then he's saying, Julia Fox says, okay, well, tonight is the party where you're basically going to get your chance to like impress the owner and the people in charge, and this could be your shot. So like, let's go. And they get to this spot, and it's like this innocuous like strip mall that's fully empty. And Julia Fox is explaining like, well, these are very high profile people, so things need to be discreet. We get inside. That party wasn't that lit. Then we see weird stuff happening. It was very mild, like clearly people are having sex. You know what it should have felt like to me? Uh, like Babylon, like that party scene.
Oh yeah, sure. With
But
Mark B in the beginning.
mhm. But during that scene, we see the sports medicine doctor be decapitated, and I think it's Julia Fox's character who does it.
Because he tells Cameron to run at the very beginning of this party, whispers it in his ear. But why? I mean, we get a little backstory that because the doctor says that I got into this business to heal people. Chuckle, chuckle, if you can believe it. Like, okay,
So then I don't understand his character's like, are you trapped in this house? You can't leave, or like what's happening? Did you sell your soul and now you're stuck? I don't know. But Tyreek gets back to the house and now he realizes what he has to do. He needs to take Marlon's spot. So they have a fight to the death and Tyreek kills Marlon. And in the process of that, Marlon snaps Tyreek's arm, which the way he snapped it looked like he wouldn't have any movement of it. But then later we see he's just kind of holding it.
moments later, moments later.
Okay. After Tyreek's character comes from the ashes and he goes outside, there's this ceremony. And it's like the owner of the team and all the people, his agent is there. Julia Fox is there with the contract. And they're telling him, like, you can have it all, your dreams come true, just sign. And he says no. And this is where the movie reminded me of Opus plus The Home with Pete Davidson. Because you
Oh,
remember at the end of The Home, there's this bloodbath.
mhm.
And so, like the picture behind me, Tyreek basically kills everyone, or everyone gets killed because, like, Julia Fox's ass gets killed by her own. She falls on a knife thinking she was going to hurt Tyreek.
Which is,
But,
I guess that's symbolic, right?
right.
But as she's screaming, "What else do I have to do for this team?"
Like,
It's
what?
it's so basic and obvious. I don't
Well,
know.
yeah, because I'm like, so all of you are shepherds for the devil? Like, what? I don't understand who's, because then I was thinking, is this commentary on like professional sports and the owners and how they're exploiting these athletes who are typically people of color? I didn't get any of that. Like,
There are so many avenues where that could have really been explored in a subversive way.
and
Now,
then you're right. And then part of, when they ask Tyreek's character to sign, then we get this like flashback montage of him thinking about his family, which meant nothing to me because I feel like his family, as far as I perceived, they just wanted him to be a rich, successful athlete. Like that's all they cared about. His mama didn't think like, oh, his like physical health wasn't, she's like, no, he can play. Even if he has this brain injury, he'll be fine. And then his brother is annoying to him.
his brother who's cutting his hair with the staples. Also, when we see the staples, which of course, are supposed to be a visual parallel with the football, right, on his head. Not shaved around here at all. That's a pretty those are some heavy duty staples, man. And they they would have cleared all that hair around that wound to put that shit in. Okay? Like
So the flashback to his family before he makes the decision not to sign, I felt had no weight. Then the final gag of the movie is that we see a picture of little Tyreek with his dad, because his dad died years ago. We see a photograph of little Tyreek and his dad standing next to the owner. The team he wants to play for is called the Saviors. So they're in a picture with the owner of the Saviors. And that's when we realized that little Tyreek had been groomed for this position.
mhm.
How? Why? Why him? Did I miss something? Is it explained why he's the chosen one?
You know what this felt like? If you mix Training Day with this really fantastic but strange film from the 70s called To the Devil a Daughter with Richard Widmark and Nastasia Kinski. That's what it feels like.
But every movie like this, where it's like, oh, the devil's spawn, like, I mean, even shitty ones we reviewed, they at least explain why this one is the one. And I
Right.
don't understand why Cameron Cade, why was he groomed as a little boy?
I don't know. Is Satan why is he so specific? Because he really could do a lot more if he wasn't so one-track minded. Jesus.
Maybe I missed something, but I just didn't see how we got here. Combined with the fact that this bloodbath felt so confusing. So because they have cheerleaders, they have a full band. Like, so all these people work for the devil, and then like they're not prepared for someone to say no and like retaliate. Like,
With a with
none
a
of these.
with a COVID era audience. No one's out there watching.
They only had the one guy who reminded me of Questlove, who was like, I guess the heavy, like he would have protected them, the one guy who Tyreek's character kills first. And
Uh,
then now you have all these people running around like chickens with their heads cut off, which he does. Because he kills, is it the owner whose head he chops off?
And then
And
he
then I was super confused because then there's like this pentagram in the middle of the field, and the agent is like expecting Tyreek to kill him. But instead, the devil spirit drags the agent into this pentagram, and then we see him explode. Hmm.
Mhm. Yeah.
What was this? What was this?
What was this? What, why? And all the, I think again, it's a good case of when your expectations might be too high for something based on who the producer might be. Yeah, I thought this is kind of wretched.
That being said, I mean, I think it looks pretty cool. There are some repetitive elements. I do think the cast, Julia Fox, Tyreek Withers, and Marlon Wayans, are definitely people I like on screen. And I do think there are interesting elements, but it just does not coalesce into an effective psychological thriller.
No, no, not at all.
What would you give him?
He is getting 1.5 from me.
Oh,
This is so stupid. Uh,
I don't think this works, but it was watchable to me. Uh, I'm giving it 2 out of 5. It doesn't work.
sure.
Join us on Patreon and listen to our podcast. Bye.